Once again, welcome everyone. So today we are continuing with our discussion. We're finishing chapter 6 and then we'll get into chapter 7. So somehow the mood has been yoga. We have a lot of yoga discussion going on. Tomorrow, as I mentioned, also there's a yoga conference here in Chicago. It's called the View Something Conference. So it starts at 8 in the morning. So I need to leave at home by 7. And so it's the same time as our class. So I had to change it. Thank you for coming for this time. So we're on chapter 6, where Krishna is speaking about the different stages of yoga. And he's taught so much. Last time it was so interesting how Krishna spoke a lot about these first two stages, the yama and niyama, the rules and regulations, that how yoga is not just a practice, it's a lifestyle, and how we connect with others, how we um, see others, how we live, all plays into our practice of yoga. So sometimes people say, well, yoga is a physical exercise and my life is separate. But no, they're two completely connected items. And not just physical, but also mental and spiritual. Everything is connected in the practice of yoga. Yoga is not just physical, but also mental and spiritual. So here the font got messed up a little bit, but these are the 8 stages of yoga: yama, niyama, asana, pranayama. These are the 4 stages: yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So these are the 8 stages of yoga: yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. By practice of yoga, one becomes gradually detached from material concepts. This is the primary characteristic of the yoga principle. And after this, one becomes situated in trance or samadhi, which means that the yogi realizes the supersoul through transcendental mind and intelligence, without any of the misgivings of identifying the self with the superself. Yoga practice is more or less based on the principles of the Patanjali system. Some unauthorized commentators try to identify the individual soul with the supersoul, and the monists think this to be liberation. But they do not understand the real purpose of the Patanjali system of yoga, which is 623. So, the purpose of yoga, and I think this is maybe where we ended last time, is samadhi. And what is this samadhi? This samadhi is not oneness of the soul with the super soul. The samadhi is not, some type of amalgamation, but rather samadhi means when we connect with the Supreme Soul in perfect union. So we're connecting, we're realizing that connection, because yoga means to link. Link always means two. Yoga yukta, right? Yukta. It comes from the root yuj, which means to connect or link. It's connecting the soul with the Supreme Soul. If we become one, then what is the connection? If we become one, then where is the love? There's no love in oneness. You need two for love. You need two for connection. And the word yoga itself means connection. So this is what Prabhupada here is saying, that the real purpose of the Patanjali system yoga is to become detached from this material world and to become attached to Krishna. Unlike what false commentators say is, or not false, but the commentators who falsely understand the text say, it's not a oneness of identity. So now each one of these 8 stages, which I just read through quickly, we will go through in detail. So by the end of this class, all of you can become perfect yogis. So the first stage is yama, the rules, which is go to a secluded place, regulate one's eating and sleeping, work and recreation, practice of celibacy, giving up intoxication. So these are the different rules that Krishna mentions in the Gita. This is directly from the Gita. It says, okay, if you want to practice yoga, it won't be in the middle of the mall. of course, Krishna consciousness is so wonderful that one can be distributing books in the middle of the mall and be practicing yoga, right? So that's the beauty of Krishna consciousness. But in general, we cannot do that. If we want to do dhyana yoga in particular, and even our chanting, when we go deep into our service, our meditation on Krishna, then we must go to a secluded place. Regulate one's eating and sleeping, work and recreation. So regulate these four things: eating, sleeping, work, and recreation. So notice, and in this chapter says that recreation is a necessity of life, but regulated. So Baladev Vidyabhushan, in his commentary on this text, on this section where Krishna mentions this, he says that regulated recreation means going for a walk. So therefore you see Prabhupada went for morning walks every day. Of course, for us, it may mean a little more. For different people of different levels of advancement, it means different things. So for people who like pure devotees, for them walking is enough. For us, we may need more forms of recreation, but not too much and not too little, regulating it. Similarly, eating and sleeping. We all need to eat. The Buddha initially tried the practice of negation and he failed. And then before that, he was a prince and he had the life of luxury. He also spiritually failed. And he realized that his eating, he was trying to fast himself to literally death as a means of reaching nirvana. And then he's realized, no, I cannot do that. By fasting, I will not reach the goal. I need to regulate my eating. I need to regulate my sleeping. And I need to regulate my work. So these four things must be regulated for the successful practice of yoga. The practice of celibacy. So this is the first rule that most yogis break, modern yogis, and it's the first rule that Krishna says must be followed in order to do this. So this is the practice of celibacy. And finally, giving up of intoxication. That is drinking, smoking, all these things, giving that up. So that must be given up. We cannot be an intoxicated yogi. These are the yamas. Then the niyamas, the regulations. Avoid prajalpa. Avoid tamasic foods, meat, etc. So these are the things that we should. The things that we shouldn't do are the rules. The things that we should do are the rules. Um, we have to avoid prajalpa, and we have to avoid tamasic foods, meat, etc. So these are regulations or things that we do not do. So these are things that we do, and these are things that we do not do. Avoid prajalpa, avoid tamasic foods. And so these are two things particularly that kill our yogic practice. Talking too much, talking unnecessarily, talking about people or about things, and then we get involved in a whole network of problems and accusations and these things. So this is prajalpa. Life is so simple when we stay out of it, right? A good life is a life that is reduces conflict. So, but at the same time, for Krishna, Arjuna was fighting. But then when we fight, we should know that there's no other path. And then there's also no anxiety because we know we're doing the right thing. But in general, the good life is a life without conflict. So we avoid prajalpa because then our mind can be very focused on Krishna. Right? We avoid the conflict. So then when we chant, our mind doesn't get disturbed by he said, she said. And then particularly Krishna mentions avoiding tamasic foods. So foods that are impure, that have the consciousness of all food has a consciousness of the cook. So if the cook's consciousness is not pure, that affects our consciousness. And we see many, many examples of this in the scriptures. And that's why we're careful with what we eat. We avoid these tamasic foods. So yama and niyama, the rules, the things to do, go to the suitable place, give up celibacy, all these things, and the things not to do. And now asana, physical alignment. Prabhupada would say, sit properly. When we chant, we should sit properly. Krishna in the Gita here is saying, lay kusha grass, have peaceful surroundings. Don't sit too high or too low. So we should always have an asana. Sometimes out of humility, we don't want to have a sitting seat, but actually it's good to have a sitting place. And it should not be too high or too low. If it's too high, we get proud. If it's too low, then it may be unclean. It may be problematic. The sages before, they would sit on the skin of an animal. Right? They would sit on a deer skin or a lion skin or a tiger skin. Why do you think that's the case? Does anyone know the answer to that? Why were they sitting? Of course, this animal had died naturally, very key point. But why were they sitting on a deer skin or a tiger skin?
It
Right?
doesn't allow.
Considered inauspicious. Yes, Yashoda Vatsalapu, you go first and then.
Sorry, Prabhu. I should have raised my hand.
No, it's okay.
It actually, these skins allows those small insects, ants and all, not to come close to the person. Doing somewhere I read it in some book. Yeah.
Yes, that's close. That's close, Prabhu. Thank you. Someone else who doesn't know the answer.
Maybe because of the cold weather, it keeps them warm.
Okay, cold weather because it keeps them warm. Yes, that's true. Actually, a animal's hide is actually one of the warmest clothes because they can be in sub-freezing temperature without any coat, jacket, and they're warm. So their skin actually is very, very tough, very amazing. Actually, they're saying the human species is the most delicate species in the world. Every other species is tougher than we are, physically speaking. But we have intelligence, and that's why we outdo all those species. But just purely physically speaking, they are better at surviving than we are. Yes. Okay. Someone else? Om.
Maybe because it's not that high and not that low, because the skin can like according to the weight, it can, how do I say, collapse sort of. So
Very good.
that creates a suitable skin, suitable seat.
Yes, that's also a quality. It's not too high, it's not too low. Ishio.
Probably would be control over one's animal tendencies.
Okay. Okay. So sitting on the animal skin to show control over animal tendencies. I like that. Hitesh Prabhu.
I think it is because the deceased animal skin should not go to waste. That
Okay. This is a good point that so it doesn't go to waste. That's why. Okay. Very good. Ritesh Prabhu, were you going to say something?
Yeah, no, actually, Pratiksha said that.
Okay, she said it. Okay, I see. Okay, perfect. Okay, Rashmi Mataji, I think you were going to say.
I actually had the same answer as Yashoda Vatsala Prabhu. It was
Okay.
just to avoid pests, is what I think I read too.
Yes. So the deer skin is there because then scorpions, snakes, they said every 5 minutes, one person dies in the world from a snake bite. Do you know that? 1 in 5 minutes, a person dies with a snake bite. So every 5 minutes, one person dies. So yeah. So this is just what it is. So to keep the snakes away, to keep the scorpions away, to keep insects away. For all these reasons, it's important they do that. I see in the chat box, Gia said to liberate the animal skin, maybe. Yeah, maybe this animal gets good karma because it's doing some service for a great saint. Yes, protection from pests. The specific texture or scent of these skins, the scent, especially tiger, was thought to repel snakes, scorpions, ants, and other insects that could disturb a yogi in deep meditation. When you're deeply meditating, you're not conscious of the external. And in a forest, there's danger from tigers and all these things, but actually the biggest danger is from snakes and scorpions if you're sitting in one place without moving. If you're not moving about, if you're sitting in one place, then actually most animals, including tigers, they have a natural fear of humans. They don't come that close to humans. Even an alligator in the wild will be afraid of a human being. So they will generally attack if they think that you are attacking them. Like if you're walking, then they think you're attacking them. But like with a bear, if you play dead, it doesn't come and eat you, right? That's why people, when they see a bear, they just like fall as though they're dead because they just want to protect themselves. They're not actually so much interested in human meat or to deal with humans. Actually, Krishna's made it this way. Like he's made it so nicely. Of course, tigers are there, but sometimes it's a mad tiger or a very hungry tiger who come and kill a human. They don't do it normally. So there's actually not so much threat from the big animals in the forest. The threat is from the snakes. And by sitting on a tiger's skin, that becomes avoided. So that's why they would do that. We should sit in a sacred place. So it's not just any place, even a peaceful, but it should be sacred. So I say, I go to Hawaii and sit there, it's peaceful. Good, but Vrindavan is even better. And then one should see the tip of the nose while meditating. Why the tip of the nose? Why not just close your eyes, meditate on Krishna? Or why not open eyes, look at Krishna? Why does it say tip of your nose? Who wants to answer this one?
If you
Sorry. To focus.
To focus. Okay, like that.
Yes,
Very
Prabhu.
good. What else?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
This is Rinku.
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
when you close Hare Krishna,
Mm.
when you close your eyes, you tend to sleep
Mm.
or you tend to get distracted. When you keep your eyes wide open, you get distracted.
Yes.
So that's the
Perfect.
thing. Yes.
Yes. So when you close your eyes, you fall asleep. When you keep it open, there's so many things distraction. So half closed. So of course, in the case of a devotee who is looking at Krishna, you're sitting in front of the deity, keeping your eyes open is the best. If you are just meditating on Krishna for a few minutes, you can close it also. But for those who are meditating for a long period of time, and let's say in the forest, there's no deity there, there's no picture of Krishna there. This was the practice to keep focused, is to see the tip of the nose, not to keep it all open, not to keep it closed, so that one can keep one's focus on Krishna, fully focused on Krishna. So special. And then the last is the deer skin, which we talked about. So these are all the asana recommendations given in the Gita. Sit on kusha grass, sit on a skin, tiger skin, deer skin, not too high, all these things. So this is for the process of dhyana yoga. Krishna talks about different types of yoga in the Gita, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, and other forms of yoga may not need this so much. But in all forms of yoga, we do some dhyana. Even in bhakti yoga, we must chant very seriously, very intensely. That is dhyana yoga. And dhyana yoga is so special because for most yogis, dhyana yoga is just like, okay, meditate on a dot or something. But the dhyana yoga that Krishna is talking about, which we see in the Gita, Krishna is saying, you meditate on me, on my form. He talks about this later in the chapter. So this is so special, actually, because Krishna is saying, this is the exchange of love. Krishna is saying that you can love me. Just meditate on my form. It's so spiritual. Like he's opening himself up to the devotee. You know, we wouldn't want someone to meditate on us all the time, right? That's called stalking. Like, oh, don't stalk me. Don't meditate on me all the time. But Krishna is saying, no, you can meditate on me all the time. Focus your mind on me. This is his love. It's its expression of love. This chapter, this is also bhakti. Because if we are meditating with our mind and heart fixed on Krishna, seeing Krishna, then that is the deepest form of love. When you really love someone, you just think about them day and night. Right? That type of love doesn't even exist between lover and beloved in this material world. Prabhupada says the closest is a mother's love for the child. You know, the mother carries the child for 9 months. It's so much pain. Then the child comes out, so much pain in the process of coming out. Then when the child is born, until like, you know, a year after that, it's so much pain. Every night they decide they're going to stay up all night and, you know, do their fun while the mother is trying to get 30 minutes of sleep. And in serving the child so deeply and so intimately, the mother develops such a deep affection for the child that day and night she's meditating on the child, day and night, every movement, everything. Like that depth of love is the closest love to the spiritual love between the soul and Krishna. And that love, it said, it's equal to millions of mothers, right? So the mother is the closest love, but even that close is 1/1,000,000th of that spiritual love. And that's how deep that affection is between the soul and God. We miss the affection of others. We hanker for their acceptance and their affection because we have lost the connection with Krishna. If we have that connection with Krishna, we'll feel so satisfied. We're fully satisfied that nothing will be needed to fill our heart. There'll be no hole in our heart. Krishna fills every hole in our heart. That's why you see the Pandavas, when they were losing sometimes in the battle, they lost their children, they lost Abhimanyu. They were so unhappy, they would cry, but they would not be affected by it in the way a materialist would. Why? Because they had Krishna. Because Krishna is the deepest object of love, right? So if you lose your mother, that's very painful, but Krishna is the equivalent to 1,000,000 mothers. If you lose your son or your daughter, that's painful, but Krishna is equal to 1,000,000 sons and daughters. So they lost a son. It was very painful for them. But Krishna was there, and he is equal to millions of sons. Just like we see in Vrindavan, that when Krishna he loses he loses all of his cowherd friends to Brahma. Brahma steals them all away. Then he expands himself as the cowherd boys. Every single cowherd boy, every single calf, because Brahma had stolen all of Krishna's friends and all the calves that he was tending. So the cows were left, the parents were left, and Krishna was left. So that the parents and the cows would not feel any pain. Because it's Vrindavan, it's a spiritual. How can Brahma cause any pain to them? Krishna expanded himself as every single animal, every single being in that entire Vrindavan. And for 1 year he did that. And it's said that during that 1 year, the gopis, the elderly gopis, the cowherd men, they felt greater affection for their children, 1,000 times more than what they normally felt for their children. And they're wondering, like, why this year we're just loving our children so much? Because Krishna was even dearer to them than their own children. You see, that's the point. So everyone is dear to us. They should be dear to us. It is natural to feel affection towards our family members. But Krishna should be dearer to us than any family member. And that's the unnatural part. That if we think that Krishna will not be our dearest friend, he is our dearest friend. That's what's unnatural. If he's our dearest friend, then it's natural. And then every other friend that we have will be dear to us. And that's also natural. But Krishna will be number one. So this is the asana part. Now we have the pranayama part, the breath control. Right? They say that breathing exercise is actually more important than physical exercise. If you do this Kapal Bhatya every day for 5 minutes or something, you don't get any disease in your body. It's really good, actually. It's true. These things work really well. Most forms of mental stress, anxiety can be solved by good pranayama. These are magical, actually. By good yoga, one can solve most physical ailments. Of course, we also need other forms of exercise, but this is like given by Krishna. Yoga is a spiritual science. So Pranayama is breath control. We should control our breath, balance inward breath with outward breath. Breathe peacefully. So Prabhupada explains that every one of us has a set number of breaths in this life. When we're born, we're given a certain number of breaths. And if we are very passionate, in a mode of passion, then we breathe very fast. And if we're always passionate, our life goes by quicker. Right? That's why people who are very always anxiety, this, that, they have shorter. But people who are more in the mode of goodness, not always, again, it's destiny, but have a slower life, they live in the farm, like you see like some people in China, India, they're living until 120 years because they have a very peaceful life. Why? Because they're breathing in slowly, peacefully. It said that sex life reduces the duration of our life because we breathe very quick, and that shortens our life. So breath is very important, and the yogis would control their breath. So what to speak of being in the mode of goodness, they would slow it down and control it. So much so that then they would extend the duration of their life. Right? They would make it very, very long. So if you want to have a long life, start breathing slowly. Yes, you can breathe very slowly, and that'll increase the duration of our lives. And the process of chanting automatically does all these things. That's the amazing part. Because if we're chanting nicely, then we will be breathing very regularly. Then we are breathing very regularly. Like you see, people are very accomplished chanters, like Shyam Sundar Prabhu. They chant very, very nicely, very methodically, very nicely, and they are very effective in what they do. So this is pranayama, or breath control. There's another point I was going to make about breath. It just slipped my mind. Anyway, hopefully it'll come to me. Yes. So, yes, this is the point I was going to make. So we all have a certain number of breaths that we take in a lifetime, and there's a certain number of breaths that we take in a day. And actually, the 16 rounds that we chant, if we calculate 16 times 108, we do it 108 times 16. There's 16 names of God on each chanting. The number comes down to, which is like 1,700 something numbers. That's the number of breaths that we take in a day. So the point is, because breath is life, we have a certain number of breaths in this life. So that's why the scriptures say in every breath we should take the name of God, because breath is life. Now, because we're not self-realized, in every breath we cannot take the name of God, right? Just like I'm speaking to you, sometimes I'm saying Krishna, but otherwise when I'm speaking, I'm not saying Krishna at every moment. So the acharyas have given us such a wonderful way that you say that many number of names every day. You spend an hour and a half just chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna. You say that a certain number of times, so that's the equivalent to every breath in the day. And that's why minimum it says 16 rounds every day. Because for every breath, we're taking a name of God. So nice. So that is pranayama also. That's why chanting is the best yoga, because you're doing breath control. Then pratyahara, withdrawing the sense organs from the objects. Right? We withdraw the sense organs from the objects. So without withdrawing the sense organs from the objects, we will not be able to focus on Krishna. So we must withdraw them. What does that mean? That means throwing out the television, right? Because the more distraction we have, again, it's about distraction, the more we will not be able to focus on Krishna. Of course, we can keep the television if we need it just for, rudimentary things like checking the news or watching Krishna conscious films. Even the news we can get just by skimming news.google.com, right? Even that we can do. So we don't need the television. It has so many advertisements. It's once you start it, it's so hard to stop it. So the process of yoga involves withdrawing the senses from distractions. The biggest problem in our life is not lack of time or anything, it's distraction. If we had perfect lack of distraction, there's everything all the time in the world for everything. Dharana, drawing the object of concentration in the mind, right? So withdrawing the senses, and then dharana. So bringing it back from all the different attractions and distractions. Vyavasayatmika buddhi, keeping it focused. And then once it's focused, then the place where you want to concentrate, that we bring into the mind. And this process of yoga, we see it's not just about the yoga process, but in any activity that we do in our life, right? We can apply this principle. If we really want to focus, okay, remove everything else, then draw the object of concentration in our mind. And then we have, so once we establish the Lord within the mind, dharana is establishing the Lord then within our mind, then we meditate on the Lord, meditating on the content of the concentration. First concentration, drawing the object within our mind, but that's just the drawing part. But once it is there, then we have to meditate on Krishna. And that's the hour and a half chanting. Right? If we just bring him, say, I'm thinking of Krishna all day, I'm doing bhajans all day, I'm hearing, that's very good. But then are we meditating on him? Why the japa is important? Why it's not just important, okay, we do bhajans. Because yes, you're bringing the Lord, but then you're dropping him. You're bringing him, you're dropping him. You're bringing him, you're dropping him. The process of chanting is I brought him and now I'm focusing on him. And my spiritual master used to say, when people asked him, how do you do good rounds? He said, try to do all of them together. Because it does have a different effect. We do go deeper in than if we do four rounds. Which in the beginning, it's okay. We can do that. Main thing is get those rounds done. But if we have difficulty, then we should do them together. And we should pronounce each word clearly so we can hear each word. Sometimes when we become senior devotees, then we think, okay, I don't need to chant clearly and nicely. But then where is the dhyana? What are we meditating on? We're just meditating on, we're not meditating on actually the words of Krishna, on the names of Krishna. So the dhyana should be there. It should be done. So we enunciate each word. It can be done fast, but each word should be clear. Just like I may speak fast, but you can understand what I'm saying because I'm saying it clearly. But if I don't even say it clearly, you cannot follow what I'm saying. In the same way, if we don't even chant clearly, then how will we focus on it? We're focusing on something else. We can say it fast, but we should focus. And in order to meditate on it, it should be loud enough where we can hear it. Hearing is the most important part of the meditation, because how can we meditate on something that doesn't exist? If it only exists in our ear, can we focus on it? Right? The meditation is the sound. Japa meditation means meditating on the sound on Krishna's name. If we just meditate on the image of Krishna, we can do that silently. But this is mantra meditation. We're meditating on the sound, and therefore it must be done loudly. Then we have samadhi, or complete absorption in the object of meditation. This is the complete samadhi. So this is once we are meditating on Krishna through dhyana, then meditation becomes who we are. It becomes natural to us. At every moment, we become completely absorbed in the object of meditation. We get a quality of oneness with the Lord. Not in quantity we become the Lord, like we started off with that. But samadhi means that we become completely absorbed in the object of our meditation. So the perfection of yoga is realizing Krishna as the super soul. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. So this is samadhi, right? For one who sees me everywhere. So the point comes where wherever we go, whoever we look at, wherever we see, we are seeing Krishna. That Krishna is present in this situation. Krishna is my guide. I am never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Arjuna rejects controlling the mind as impractical because his mind appears uncontrollable. So then, once Krishna explains this, then Arjuna says, sorry, Krishna, Chanchalahi mana Krishna pramati barabhadritam. That my mind is too chanchal, it is too flickering. And I feel that to control the mind is more difficult than controlling the wind. So here Krishna is saying that if you make me your everything, I will never be lost to you, nor will you ever be lost to me. But Arjuna is saying that how can we do?
हाँ मैं खाना खा लो फिर चलो सोने के लिए
How can we do that, right?
नहीं पहले खाना खाओ फिर सो बेटा
We can only do that if we are focused in mind. Arjuna says, sorry. Arjuna rejects controlling the mind as impractical because his mind appears uncontrollable. He says it's more difficult than to control the wind. Krishna assures Arjuna then in response that it is possible. Krishna doesn't accept Arjuna's rejection. He says it is possible by practice and detachment. Vairagya and abhyasa. Abhyasa and vairagya. So without abhyasa, without practice, one cannot get anything. You know, we try to learn mridanga, it's like practice, practice. We try to learn music, it's practice. So controlling the mind is also practice. We have to keep trying to practice. We have to keep trying to practice. One place Prabhupada very humbly says, he said, I chanted for 40 years, and it took me 40 years to perfect my chanting. Of course, his chanting was perfect from the beginning, but he is giving an example that it can take 40 years to perfect our chanting. That's the practice, that's the effort that Krishna wants. But once it's perfected, we taste the fruit, the result of that practice. And practice can only happen when there's some detachment, right? If I'm attached to everything else, I cannot take time out for my practice, right? I cannot take time out for the practice. And that is the practice and detachment. So then, Krishna tells Arjuna this. It's such a sweet conversation, this chapter 6. So Krishna tells, just focus on me. Arjuna says, sorry, Krishna, I'm a warrior. I'm a passionate man. You know, I'm a king. I'm like a prince. You know, I can't meditate on you. And Krishna says, no, you can do it through practice and detachment. It's possible. This is the path. Then Arjuna says, okay, I accept it. But, you know, most likely I won't be successful. He said, let's be honest here. And what if I'm not successful? I just need a backup plan here, Krishna. So then he asks, what is the destination of the unsuccessful yogi? And actually, this question was asked many times by many devotees, by many disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Because when they were also doing this path, they thought, it came to their mind again and again that, I mean, what if I'm not successful? Right? They asked Prabhupada, you know, like what happens if I don't go back home, back to Godhead? And so here Krishna answers this question. So this is the question, Arjuna's question. O mighty armed Krishna, does such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? So we see many people in this world, they give up their material life to pursue spiritual life. And in their pursuit of spiritual life, they're not successful. So Arjuna is asking for their sake. What happens? Are they a riven cloud with neither left or right? They didn't get spiritually successful. They weren't materially successful. Now it's just, you know, it's all done for them. The Supreme Personality of God, it said, son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities, does not meet with destruction, either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. Look at how powerful Krishna's words are here. I mean, look at if every day we thought of this verse, and this is also Krishna explaining the whole law of karma in this way, and even more. This is actually beyond karma, but it also includes karma. The Supreme Personality of God, it said, son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities, does not meet with destruction, either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. So he's telling, Krishna's telling that, look, if you leave your material life for spiritual life, and most of us don't have to leave our material life, but if we, let's say, compromise a little bit, and rather than doing everything material, we do something spiritual, then we might not get everything material that we wanted, right? We don't get that CEO job because we can't work like they work day and night. I figured out also when I was doing my PhD that I couldn't finish in 4 years because we have a 4-hour sadhana, schedule as devotees, reading sadhana, going to the temple, associating with devotees. And there's just no way I could compete with people who didn't have that and who could eat out. Like we had to cook, we had to prepare food, and they were just, they would not do anything. They'd wake up in the morning and not even shower and be out and studying all day and then taking a sandwich when they're hungry and then coming home and sleeping, and you couldn't compete with them. But if we take to the spiritual path, one who engages in auspicious activities never meets with destruction, either in this world or in the spiritual world. Right? Krishna promises, no, if you do your sadhana for me, and even you go slowly in material life, I will take care of you. And at the end, that devotee will surpass everyone else because he or she has the power of Krishna, propelling him from the back. And we see that, some good luck comes and the materialists are working so hard, so systematically, so nicely, and they do 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, 4 plus 4 is 8, 8 plus 8 is 16, and they'll get exactly 16. And the devotee, they're depending on Krishna, they're serving Krishna, they do 2, and that 2 turns into 24, then they do 25, that 25 turns into 500, like that. Because one who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. They are doing good, Krishna will reward them. Prabhupada said Krishna will never punish you for being his devotee. Right? So we must have that faith. If we do good, we can only get a good result. If we engage in Krishna's service, we'll always be the winner. Someone say, I did so much seva and I, compromised this and that in my life. But that seva was what saved us. Seva means saved us. Right? Seva save. Seva saves. That was what saves us. That is our auspicious life. And that auspicious life leads us to an auspicious end. So this is a fact. We can see this in our life. I've seen it in my own life. Like Krishna actually protects, somehow Krishna will make things work out. Even though we fell short. But if we kept to our spiritual vows, we kept to our spiritual principles, Krishna is protecting us. So yes, His Grace Ravindra Swarup Prabhu said this very prophetic line. It is better to be a failure in spiritual life than a success in material life. So someone will say, look, this person was going to be a success in material life. They gave up their material life to become a spiritualist, and then they failed. What was the use? All wasted. See, this is what these religious people do. But no, it is better to be a failure in spiritual life. It's better to love and lost than never have loved, right? They say. Because even a failure in spiritual life is no failure. Then a success in material life. Because if you're a success in material life, there's no success. Why? Because if you're a success in material life, you have to give it up at the end. There's no success. There's only failure. But if you're a failure in spiritual life, then you start from where you left off. You start from where you failed. If you're a failure in spiritual life, you begin from where you ended. So Shrimatam of the prosperous, Shuchinam of the pious, Dhimatam of those who are endowed with great wisdom. Lord Chaitanya, so one who is a failure in spiritual life, they will be born in these 3 different places. What are these 3 different places? If you did a little bit of spiritual life and were unsuccessful, you will be born in Srimatam, in the families of those who are prosperous. Why? Because in wealthier families, there's more time for spiritual life. There's oftentimes a little more opportunity also, maybe a likelihood of being religious. Because actually in poor families, there can be sometimes more spirituality. But if there's hardship around you, you have to deal with the hardship. You have less time for spiritual reflection. And that's why most of us on this call are from privileged circumstances, in good living conditions. We have such an opportunity. People in like Syria, all these different places, bombing is going on. They don't even have the opportunity. People are very poor. They're like struggling, working 16 hours a day. They don't have the opportunity. So it's a great opportunity if we have the opportunity. And that's due to our past spiritual life. It said that anyone who's born in the land of India, Prabhupada said, is someone who is pursuing spiritual life. Because they are prosperous in many ways, good family, good situation. Not everyone, but most people, right? Shuchinam, of the pious, those who are more advanced, they're born in the family of the pious. Those who are religious, pious, poor or rich. So that's even better. More spiritual life, you get the benefit to be born in a family. That's so wonderful. And then the last one, Dhimatam, those who really were on the path of spiritual life, almost made it, didn't make it. They're born in families endowed with great wisdom, meaning advanced souls, advanced families, because they have all the opportunity for spiritual development. But in either of these situations, we can waste it if we're not careful. Because we have that privilege, but sometimes when we have the privilege, we don't value it. Right? That's the big problem. We all know that problem. People who have wealth since a childhood, they don't value wealth. People who don't, they sometimes value it even more. And that's why this is the norm. However, in this day and age, Lord Chaitanya also sometimes places very great souls in quote unquote fallen families. What does that mean? So many of our great spiritual masters in this movement, or great sadhus, they were born in families in which the parents were eating meat, drinking, smoking. They themselves may have been hippies on the street, but they had a very, very deep spiritual calling. And especially when they met Srila Prabhupada, that calling flourished. Because Lord Chaitanya's age is different. His age is showing causeless mercy of Krishna. So to show that anyone can attain any stage of life from any point, he sometimes actually places great souls in normal families, quote unquote fallen families, to show the greatness of bhakti. Not just show, because bhakti is so great. And he also, so that as the soul will value spiritual life more. Sometimes, like it said, the moon is more beautiful, not sometimes, the moon is more beautiful in the background of darkness. So when one has a very horrible material experience, when one comes to spiritual life, one is all the more, the spiritual life is all the more beautiful for that person, and one is all the more serious. So like Ganapati Swami, one of our Swamis in our movement, who's a Prabhupada disciple, distributed Prabhupada books throughout his life, very advanced devotee, he said that before we met Prabhupada, we had done every sinful activity on this planet. We had taken so much intoxication, so that by the time we came to Srila Prabhupada, we were completely done with it. Sometimes when we're born in a pious family, we keep wanting to enjoy because we didn't get the chance to enjoy, what's on the other side of the door, And of course, some people are so pious, so wonderful, so devotional that they're born in spiritual families and they never have the desire even for material things. But the overall point is, based on one's birth, one cannot judge one's spiritual advancement. But the point is that Krishna is fair. So wherever we leave off, from our very childhood, he will give us the chance to pursue spiritual life from that point on. There's one Swami, last thing on this, Yadunandan Swami in our movement. Very amazing. He's just like born, like he has no lust in his body. You see, like he's just like a Kumara. He's maybe 50 years old, but he looks like he's 20, very short, boyish face. And he was telling that he saw the devotees when he was 11 years old. They were doing Harinam, Sankirtan. And the moment he saw them, he ran away from home. he went with them and started living in the temple. And he looked a little older than his age at that time. So I mentioned he has a boyish face, but somehow he had, maybe some adolescent hair or something. And so the devotees thought maybe he's like 16 or, like that's why he's joined. But then they realized that he's like 12 years old. And like once they came to realize that, they said, sorry, you cannot join. You must go back home. And he's like, what? No, I came here to give my life to God. Why are you telling me? He says, no, the laws are that you must go back home. And so they took him home. And his parents, they were just like trying to find him, what happened to our son and this and that. But he didn't even care about that. He was so in love with Krishna. And so then he stays at home, and he was living at home like an ascetic, chanting all these things with his parents. And then as soon as he turned 18, he came back and he joined the temple. He never got married. Soon after that took sannyas, and to this day he's a sannyasi. He never, like, he came back to the temple and then he took sannyas. This is like you read about Shankaracharya, right? And other great, acharyas in our tradition, Ramanujacharya and all these things. We have modern day saints like this also. Maybe they're not so famous, maybe not they're not on that level or that learned, but they're extraordinary because this is what Lord Chaitanya has given us. The famous example of this was presented by Lord Chaitanya, who accepted Thakur Haridas as one of his most important disciples. Although Thakur Haridas happened to take his birth in a Muslim family, he was elevated to the post of Namacharya by Lord Chaitanya due to his rigidly attended principle of chanting 300,000 holy names of the Lord daily. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And because he chanted the holy name of the Lord constantly, it is understood that in his previous life, this is Prabhupada writing this, in his previous life, he must have passed through all the ritualistic methods of the Vedas, known as Shabda Brahma. Unless, therefore, one is purified, one cannot take to the principles of Krishna consciousness or become engaged in chanting the holy name of the Lord. Hare Krishna. So we understand that in his previous life, Haridas Thakur was actually Lord Brahma. And that's how elevated he was. And that's why he became the Namacharya. Being the firstborn living entity, he's the natural guru of all beings. And he came as Haridas Thakur to set the standard, to as guru show the example that this holy name is so wonderful, it is so pleasurable that one can chant it 300,000 times daily, meaning 23.5 hours daily. We cannot do it, but he showed that he showed the highest limit so that we can never feel that we can't do an hour and a half or 2 hours or 8 hours daily. He did it 23.5 hours daily. But Prabhupada is saying it's not possible until our mind is purified. It's not possible unless we have done something good in our previous life. And that's why if someone comes to Krishna consciousness, we understand that they must have some spiritual credit to them, that they have come in touch with this chanting. Because so many people hear about it. So many people see devotees on Harinam, but not all people come forward. And if one does come forward, we must understand how special they are. They must have done spiritual life in their past life. That's why they're taking up to Krishna consciousness so seriously and sincerely. Okay, so I'm now in text 24 of chapter 6. In the interest of time, in the interest of time, I'm not going to read it. But there's a famous story that Prabhupada tells us in the purport. One of the key qualities of a yogi, the most important quality of a yogi, is determination, steadfast determination. Because it's not going to be easy on this path of spiritual life. Whatever yoga we're doing, jnana yoga, dhyana yoga, bhakti yoga, any yoga is not going to be easy. And to understand the relationship between our determination and the grace of God, The example that's given is of this sparrow who lost her eggs in the ocean. Many of you may have heard this, but it's very telling because we need determination, but most of all, we need the grace of the Lord. So this story explains how both of them work together. So one time there was a sparrow who was laying her eggs on the side of the sea, as sparrows do. And one time, just an abnormally large wave came, like a tsunami type wave. And though she was inland, the wave came in and swept up her eggs and took it inside. So when she lost her little eggs, she was so heartbroken. I mean, it's like it shows animals also have feelings, right? It's so heartbroken. And at that time, she asked the ocean, she came up to the ocean that you please give my eggs back. You understand, Mr. Ocean? You give my eggs back. And the ocean, who's watching this, he started laughing and even rumbling more and all these things. Ha, you think you get your eggs back? Um, and so the sparrow says, okay, no problem. I will empty out the ocean from my beak and find my eggs at the bottom of the ocean. Sounds good? So beak by beak, she takes everything and empties out. And then once she does that, then she's like, after one day, she empties out maybe one bucket of water. Hopeless. Everyone starts laughing at her. Even the demigods are laughing at her. The trees are laughing at her. The ocean is laughing at her. The sea is laughing at her. Everyone is laughing at her. And this is the position of the spiritualist. If you come to spiritual life, everyone laughs at you. Yeah, what a sincere soul. They say, oh, bless his heart. He wants to go to God. Bless his heart, right? You've seen that? Your relatives will make fun of you. Everyone makes fun of the sadhu. And so Garuda at that time was flying by. And he started to notice what fun is going on here. And he's flying by. And he sees what's happening. He says, oh, this sparrow, it's the same species as me. No problem. He comes up to the sparrow and says, what are you trying to do? And the sparrow explains. And then Garuda says, no problem. I know this is difficult. Let's work on this together. I'll help you also. And the moment Garuda says, I will help you, then the ocean becomes extremely worried. Because it's said that Garuda's one wing is like 5 times the size of the universe. I actually don't know how he fits inside. I mean, I think he makes himself small. But this is how great Lord Vishnu's carrier is. So he swoops down on his massive beak. He's just about to swallow up the entire ocean. The ocean comes out, jumps up, and with the eggs, says, oh, please take your eggs back. Please take there. No problem. Take your eggs back. So Prabhupada here gives this example to say that it wasn't the determination of the sparrow that got her eggs. It's only the grace of someone divine, in this case, the Lord's servant, that gets her eggs. But what gets that grace? It's her determination, her steadfast determination. And this is what's needed if we want to be successful in yoga, steadfast determination. Even if my house burns down, I will finish my rounds every single day. Or maybe that's the only time I'll skip my rounds, is if my house burns down. Otherwise, I will never skip my rounds. And when we have that determination, then Krishna notices, the devotee notices our determination, then they help us, and then we can reach the goal. So this is a very important verse. And that's why even in the Vaishnava tradition, there's 2 schools of thought. One is called the cat school, the other is the monkey school. And in the Sri Vaishnava tradition, within that same tradition, they have these 2 viewpoints and they kind of argue with each other. And one tradition says that bhakti, the process of bhakti, is like a monkey who clings onto the mother being Krishna or his devotee, and the little monkey being the devotee, meaning Krishna or his pure devotee, like the sage, the saints. And the little monkey is the aspiring devotee who's trying to get to Krishna. So their example is that, like the little monkey, if you want to go to God, that is, get on top of the tree, you have to cling on. You have to make effort. You have to cling on to the big monkey. And then with the power of the big monkey, you'll get on top of the tree. And then the other school of thought says that no, the process of bhakti is like a kitten and a cat. How is it? The kitten just sits there and, sits around and meows. And then the big cat comes and sees her little kitten. And when it's time to feed her or take her outside, she picks her up with her teeth, from the back here, this very tough skin, and picks the kitten up and takes her outside. So bhakti is like that. You just depend on the mercy of Krishna, and Krishna will pick you up and take you. So that's how we are successful in spiritual life. So now the question is, which of these two are the correct path? Is it the monkey school, which says that pretty much it's all our effort? Or is it the kitten school? Which is the right school? Who do you think? Anyone want to suggest? How many people say it's the kitten school? Raise your hand electronically. Yashoda Vatsala Prabhu. Who else? Om. Okay. Rupal. Mataji. Okay, a lot of people are saying, okay, it's a kitten school. Okay, so we have 5 people saying that it's a kitten school. How many of you say that it's the monkey school? Those of you raise your hand, you could put it down for the kitten, and those who think it's a monkey school, you can raise your hand. Yashoda Vatsala Prabhu, you're also monkey school. Okay.
It's mix of both actually, Prabhuji. We have to cling to our bhakti sadhana and all. Then Krishna will show his mercy.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So I was going to say, 2 people said the monkey school, and then I was going to say that the rest, everyone is enjoying their sandwich, right? Their dinner sandwich. But no, I think the rest of you are feeling that it must be a combination of the both. Yes. And that is the correct answer. And Prabhupada gives the example. So there's a third example of a man in a well who is being given a rope. So a person in a well cannot get out by their own strength. It's too smooth, it's all these things. But they're being given the rope. But then the person who pulls the rope, they're the only ones who can get them out. But if they cling to the rope very tightly, very, very tightly, then they can be pulled out. So our part is clinging onto that rope. And it takes a lot of strength, actually, to hold on to a rope if someone's pulling you. You must cling on. We must cling to this process. We must do the process. And if we do the process, then the process and the acharyas and Krishna pull us out. So both are correct. Both schools are correct, and it's a combination of both of them. And it's a combination of our effort and Krishna's mercy, like the rope in the well, and the person helping the person out of the well. When Krishna, and we use a rope example because when Mother Yashoda is trying to tie a Krishna, then every time it's 2 inches too short. 2 inches too short. So what are those 2 inches? 2 fingers too short. One is our effort, and the other is Krishna's mercy. So if we have not seen Krishna lately, then there's 2 things that are short, that are not allowing us to see him. One is our effort, and the other is Krishna's mercy. Both of those things are not there, that's why we're not able to see him. Now, which of the 2 do we have control over? We have no control over Krishna's mercy. The only thing that we have in our hand is our effort. And that's why the effort is so important. So if we're missing Krishna's association, what can we do? All we can do is make an intense effort for Krishna, because that is our expression of begging for that mercy. So we can beg, but as they say, the best begging is walking the talk. If we beg, God, please give me mercy, God, give me mercy, but then we watch movies 18 hours a day, which none of us do, I'm just giving as an example, then the begging is there, but where's the effort, right? So if we are begging Krishna, I really want your mercy, and we're chanting our rounds nicely, an hour and a half every day, then that effort is there, and then the mercy comes. And then we will see Krishna one day, very soon, Prabhupada says. So Prabhupada, I mentioned how disciples also ask Prabhupada, what happens if we're unsuccessful? So Prabhupada says in one place, the disciples ask him, he says, even if you're 75% Krishna conscious, he said, I will fulfill the rest. I will take you back to Godhead. But then the disciples became very sad because it's 75%. I mean, we're in Maya like most of the time. So their heads are still low. Prabhupada is walking out the door. He sees that they're still very dejected. He says, okay, 50% Krishna conscious. I will take you back home, back to Godhead. There's some little more happiness, but devotees are still like, we're not even Krishna conscious, even one day of the week. And then Prabhupada turns over and looks at them and says, okay, 25%. You do 25%. Be 25% Krishna conscious. I will do the rest. So our job is just that 25%. If we can do that 25%, Krishna and Prabhupada will do the rest. So, last slide. So therefore, after describing this whole yoga process, Krishna then tells us, like he does so nicely, again, Krishna is so practical. Like his instructions are actually so clear. We don't have to speculate. He then tells us, who's the topmost yogi? Text 46. A yogi is greater than an ascetic, greater than an empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. So first he tells us, be a yogi. Look, this chapter is not just for theoretical understanding. Be a yogi. We are all yoga practitioners. Bhakti yogis are yogis. A yogi is a greater than the ascetic. Don't just try to, be an ascetic, be a yogi, meaning someone who's trying for a connection with Krishna. Greater than the empiricist. Don't just observe the world or study books. Greater than the fruitive worker. Don't just, work for your sense gratification. Don't be a materialist. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. Then in text 47, he tells us, so who is that topmost yogi? And of all the yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. He who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service to me. These three things. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. So, Krishna, this is the verse, Yogi Nam api sarvesham mad bhakta tenatmanatmana. That Yogi Nam api sarvesham, among all the yogis, sarvesham, the best, is my bhakta. The Sanskrit is even more clear for this verse. Mad bhakta is my devotee. Shraddhavan bhajite same yuktatamo mata. Such a person, due to their faith in me, they become yuktatama. They are connected, intimately united with me in yoga, and is the highest of all. So we must do these things. We must love Krishna, and then automatically we're the topmost yogi. So someone will say, well, why did Prabhupada not teach us all these things about, focusing on the tip of the nose? Why did he not tell us to, sit on, tiger skin? Because he told us that the essence, what Krishna told us is, okay, all that yoga you can do it day in and day out. But the highest yoga, the highest yogi is one who's intimately united with Krishna in yoga out of love. So this is the sum and substance of this chapter. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Thank you, Divya Bhakti Mataji, for reminding us that we had this half left. We would have just missed it. Thank you, Hansi. And so now we have about 15 minutes for comments, questions, corrections, realizations. So we can share that now. Lavanya Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Yes, Prabhuji, you were telling that about having difficulties and being Krishna conscious, that rich people. But the thing is, I think even in Bhagavatam we see that those who are in more difficulties, they are actually asking for Krishna.
Yes, if they are devotee. You see, if they're already devotees. But those who are not devotees, not always. Just like one time, just to give a quick, and then you can continue, is that I was in Delhi one time for quite some time, 6 months, and I saw, there's so many poor people, as we all do, such poor people right outside of the temple, and also therefore outside of the ISKCON temple. So one day, this is a true story. I was like, 17, 18 at that time, very curious person. So one day I went out of the temple and I approached some of these poor people and I said, if you just join the temple, you will never have a food problem ever, because the devotees there, they get free food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you get nice clothes, you get a nice place to stay. The only thing you need to do is you chant a little bit and read some books, come for Mangal Aarti. Why don't you join the temple? Because they're so poor, right? They're hungry. And I really like asked a few of them, and they would look up, they say, "Oh, no, no, I'm fine. I'm okay outside here. No, no, no. This is true. Like,
Yes.
every ISKCON temple is looking for brahmacharis, for devotees, not just brahmacharis, to join, do service, all these things. And there's so many poor people around. You wonder, why don't they just join? And the brahmacharis, they're walking around with like big round faces, tilak, so healthy, and with nice clothes. And all they need to do is join and serve in the temple. But they will not do it. Because poverty is not an automatic reason for faith in God, love for God. They prefer to be out there struggling, begging for food outside the temple, but having their independence from Krishna. They don't have to like wake up in the morning or chant or anything. Like even the waking up is not like they sleep early. The devotees in the temple, they sleep early. They get more than enough sleep and such nice food, everything. But they don't do it. They won't do it.
Okay.
And so that's why even a poor devotee is someone so special, to your point also, that Narad Muni, he's born of a child of a maidservant, right? He's so special. There's so many maidservant children. I mean, he had nothing else. No, but not all of them will become devotees. Only those who have faith, they will become devotees. Either you're rich or you're poor. Unless you have the faith in Lord, you won't actually become attached to the Lord.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes. And so in that way, you're right also that it's not just about rich people, it's even poor people you find great saints. But then we are more comfortable, right? So there's some good karma there if you're born in a place that has more comfort. And that's you're less in anxiety for material things. You can focus on spiritual life.
That's true, Prabhu. Yeah, but we will focus only if we have that wisdom to actually, focus on Krishna.
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you very much. Anyone else would like to give their thoughts?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Ishil Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
You brought up the example of Haridas Thakur and mentioned how he was previously Lord Brahma. So my question is he different from the current Brahma? Or was he the Brahma of the previous Kalpa?
No. So these pure devotees of the Lord, they can actually have multiple forms also. So they're not limited to just one form. They can have multiple forms. So he can be Brahma and simultaneously come down as Haridas Thakur. So it's described actually that after Brahma stole all the cowherd boys and calves, and then Krishna crushed his pride, he had separated Krishna from his devotees for 1 year. And that was a big offense. And after that, he felt very bad. And he understood that he did that because of his pride of being Brahma. He was such a great person, Brahma, And so that's why he that's why Brahma did not he felt very, very sad in his heart. And then he prayed to the Lord that let me be born as these in a very lowly family, so that I don't get this pride again, and I can just make up for my offense by continuously chanting Krishna's name. And then to fulfill that desire, the Lord allows him to be part of Lord Chaitanya's Leela as Haridas Thakur, where he's born in a family that at that time in India was considered outcast. As a Mohammedan, you could not come in the temples. He was not allowed in Brahminical circles or anything, because the Muslims were generally eating meat, and most of the Hindu population was not. So Muslims were seen as separate, different class. So he would be in a very humble situation, but he was continuously chanting. So Lord Chaitanya and all of his associates said that you are the most exalted among my devotees. Right? So that was kind of his making up for his offense. And he took the form of Haridas Thakur and continuously chanted, purified his existence. But for us, he set the highest example. And then he became Namacharya, the Acharya, the kind of the founder, the Acharya, you could say the example for the holy name. Very much fulfilling his Lord as Brahma, which is the source of the Sampradaya. Yes. Thank you. Nice question.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. All right. So we will stop here then. Thank you everyone for joining. Next time we'll do chapter 7 and complete that. And please keep reading the Bhagavad Gita. Keep immersing yourself in the wonderful message of the Gita. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna,
so
Prabhu.
much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Damas pranam.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank
Hare
you, Prabhu.
Krishna.